He looked at me, and everything changed. But one day I whispered, "I'm pregnant," and the man I thought I knew vanished. His smile faded, his warmth turned cold, and suddenly I was a stranger in his bed.
Alena waited for that day of the month. It was 3 days behind. No cramps, no aches, just an unusual stillness in her body. A grin spread across her face. "Do I have a bun in the oven?" Days turned into certainty, and the test confirmed it. After work, she jumped into an Uber and headed straight to her boyfriend's place, excitement bubbling like soda. She flew into his arms, overly excited. Silas was equally glad to see her. Then she broke the news to him, assured of a positive response.
"Silas, I'm pregnant."
It was a ta-da moment for her. He squinted, and then she felt his muscles slacken. His demeanor shifted abruptly, like a bright sunny afternoon swallowed by a darkening cloudy weather. He loosened his hold on her and pushed her back carefully, turning away to do nothing in particular.
"Silas,"
she repeated, this time with a nervous edge.
"I said I'm pregnant."
Yes, I heard you the first time.
His voice came out deep and gruff. Alarm bells began to chime in her heart. Was he about to deny her? Oh my, I'm done for. Was I going to be an addition to the women who loved innocently and ended up denied, rejected, and neglected without an iota of sympathy by their men? Alena quaked deep inside.
"Silas, say something,"
she pleaded, following him around like a shadow.
Listen, Alena, I'm not ready for this.
"And come on, Silas. We profess love to each other all the time."
I love you too, just that I feel trapped.
"I'm trapped? Why would I trap you with a pregnancy? Aren't we old enough to get married? Have we not discussed marriage before?"
Oh, that was nothing serious. Those were just conversations to liven up a relationship.
"What?"
Look, Alena, I am not getting married because of a pregnancy.
"Silas?"
Her voice stuck in her throat, her arms flailing about her, unsure whether to touch him or fold them around herself.
"No, he would not do this to me. Not my Silas. Please, God, don't let him."
Alena pleaded in a silent whimper. He grabbed a shirt and left, the door clicking shut behind him like a final chapter. Alena collapsed onto the bed, gasping for air as a lump of pain pushed against her chest. The sting of betrayal was unbearable. Was this her Silas, the man she had loved so naively? The man who once looked at her like she was his whole world? As tears fell, memories of their romance taunted her. The stolen glances, the laughter, his smooth charm. Her friends had warned her, but she hadn't listened. Silas was perfect to her, too perfect to be questioned. And now she was just a stranger in his bed. Alena might have drifted off to sleep only to be stirred by laughter at the door. There, on the arm of Silas, was another girl, their eyes fused into each other's. They walked in, hands entwined, completely ignoring her crumpled figure on the bed. Silas didn't even blink. Quietly, Alena picked herself up, gathered her dignity, and left without a sound. She was stunned by his sudden display of callousness. Without a twinkle of the eye, she had been replaced by the next in line who had been waiting behind the scenes to be paraded. Alena's love for Silas was like an obsessive disorder. She couldn't help herself. She called him in the morning before going to work, at odd times during the day, and before going to bed. He was her happiness. Silas made her tingle with laughter at his remarks, even when they seemed insipid. She never failed to feel a surge of pleasure as she walked by him in town. He was such a fine thing God created just for her, she would say to herself with pride, her heart swelling with joy. They first met at the National Service Secretariat, where they had gone to submit their documents for posting. Alena sat next to Silas, humming a tune softly in her throat, trying to occupy herself. Then, absent-mindedly, she swung her leg, and it bumped into his. Flustered, she gasped and apologized profusely, pulling herself further away. Silas only laughed lightly. A moment later, her handbag slipped and fell onto his foot. She muttered another breathless apology. He laughed again, his voice calm and teasing. "Shy or nervous?" he asked, extending a finely tapered hand toward her. "Alena," she said quietly, too shy to meet his gaze. She touched the tips of his fingers for a moment and quickly withdrew her hand. Silas shook his head with amusement, a small, playful smile tugging at his lips. "Silas," he introduced himself simply. And just like that, it began. As fate would have it, they found accommodation in the same house, and their romance took off effortlessly. They became the couple everyone talked about. Their relationship was the envy of their colleagues. Some admired her, saying she was lucky to have such a doting man to take care of her. Others, however, were less kind. They whispered warnings that not all that glitters is gold. But Alena had eyes only for Silas. She saw no warning signs because she was in love. He was everything to her. After their national service, Alena hoped they would get jobs in the same town, but life had other plans. The distance between them grew. A full hour's journey separated them now. Still, she held on to their bond tightly, trusting that nothing could shake what they had. Until that day. The scene in Silas's room replayed over and over in her mind like a cruel movie. That girl back there. Alena now realized she didn't just spring up from nowhere. She had been there all along, lurking in the shadows, waiting for her chance to take center stage. Silas's sudden coldness, his callous rejection, now made sense. Alena's lips quivered as a tiny wail escaped her throat. The realization hit her with an unbearable weight. Had she been nothing more than a stranger in his bed, a temporary lover, easily replaced when something better came along? Her heart sank into a deep chasm of grief. She had bared herself to him completely, given him all her love, and yet, he had taken what he wanted and cast her aside without hesitation. For Alena, the man she had once believed was God's perfect creation had become unrecognizable, a stranger she could no longer reach. Her ride came in 5 minutes, and she went back to her place, spent from shedding tears. Alena ran to her mother the next weekend. Auntie Jane owned a bakery, Jelena's Pastries, and quite successful in her business. She was a single parent taking care of Alena and her younger brother, Justice. Alena called her to her room and burst out in tears. "What could be wrong with my little girl?" her mother said softly, wiping her cheeks.
I'm pregnant, Ma.
She laughed. "Oh, pregnant. Don't you know this was going to happen when you get between the sheets with a man? Don't you know one day you would both be careless and the result would be a baby?" Alena wept more and more at her mother's reproachful words. "Listen, Silas would only have to see his people about this. No need to cry your heart out."
Ma, he rejected me.
"What did he say?" Her mother laughed quietly when she heard her side of the story. "That is not good," she said, "but I'll talk to him." But she was surprisingly understanding of Silas's behavior. "Listen, Alena, some young men are jolted by such news when they have their own well-laid plans before starting a family. Most young men are scared because it stalls their progress, so to speak, unless they are ready for whatever life throws their way. That is why young women must be extremely careful, more than young men, in relationships before marriage." He acted rashly. "I'll speak with him," she assured her daughter. But Silas never picked up her calls, nor did he open the door for Auntie Jane when she took the time to drive over to his place. She came back and spoke kindly to her daughter. Her husband of 15 years left her suddenly to marry another woman. Sometimes life's lessons were thrown our way to strengthen us on this journey of life. Though the challenges may attempt to drown us, we can succeed through endurance and perseverance. She consoled her daughter, assuring her Silas would come to his senses and reconsider his decision. So Alena waited for him to have a change of mind. That never happened. Months flowed into months as she grew rounded and heavy with child. She jokingly said to his friends that she was proudly carrying her shame around. And then there she was, holding a bouncy baby boy in her arms. Alena's mother had refurbished her room at home for her, and they felt so comfortable. Soon Justice came home after completing university, and they were one happy family. Justice loved his little nephew very much and would not put him down. After 3 months at home, Alena resumed work and she went back to her apartment with Justice, who was yet to begin his national service to take care of Seshi while she went to work. The past few months mended Alena's heart, piece by piece, but fate has a twisted sense of humor. Two years went by, and one evening, Alena heard voices at the door opposite her apartment. The place had been vacant for a year now. Justice looked through the window and called Alena. Alena had not set eyes on him for almost 3 years. She rushed to the window, and there he was in all his glory, more handsome and well-trimmed. A week later, he and a lady moved in. Alena's door was the first the lady with Silas knocked on to acquaint herself with their neighbors. They greeted each other cordially. "My husband has gone to town, and I decided to familiarize with my neighbors," she smiled sweetly. She had on a pair of square-shaped goggles which she kept on all the while. After the standard pleasantries, she left. Alena felt a tinge of jealousy and envy, and her lips quivered. The distance between their apartments was about 10 meters, with a car park in between. She knew she and Silas would one day come face to face, but somehow it took almost a month for them to meet. Justice had opened the door leading outside in the sitting room. He was watching football. Seshi always felt excited seeing cars come and go. Upon hearing the toot of a car horn, he ran out and Justice went after him.
Are you out of your senses? Be careful.
Justice apologized. He was about to call Silas' name but held back, realizing he could not make him out. Alena had heard Justice shout and came to the sitting room. That was unmistakably Silas's voice. She came to the window to look at the fine, easy gait she had always admired vanish into his apartment. Then one evening, the yelling and the cussing started in Silas's apartment. The lady got the chance to run out. Justice heard a rapid knock on their door and opened it, only for the lady to run into their sitting room. She got nowhere else to run to except into Alena's apartment. Silas followed her, fuming with rage. "Please close the door. Close the door," the lady begged, but he was inside in a few strides. Alena could have closed the door, but she did not want to. What was bound to happen was about to happen.
Get back home.
He bellowed. The next word froze on his lips. He stared from Alena to Justice, to Seshi, and back to Alena.
Alena?
He whispered. Alena was not ready for any moments of astonishment.
Please take your wife and leave my room. I won't go to court to bear witness to any case of domestic violence. Madam, follow him out. Please go now.
The lady scurried out, but Silas stood rooted to the spot. Please go now. He turned to look at Seshi again. The toddler did not look exactly like. He looked more like Justice, but he knew once the baby was mine, then he was his as well. He lowered his head and heaved a sigh. Alena picked Seshi up and vanished into the bedroom. Justice waited for him to leave. From then on, Silas tried every day to talk to Alena. He knocked on her door without a response. He tried through Justice without success. She would not want to see him ever again. He should stay in his room and beat his wife to pulp. He would just one day find himself behind bars. She got worried for her, though. Was he that violent? She could now remember he was very impatient and riotous among his friends when they played football or had arguments. His temper might have worsened. Somehow, Alena was glad she was not the one at the end of his punches. Failing to make any headway with Alena, Silas called Auntie Jane to announce his intention to accept the child and pay child support. He offered to perform a proper naming ceremony to rightfully claim the child as his own. Alena had already given the baby Silas's family name because she knew who had put her in the family way. Auntie Jane agreed all the same, and it was a joyous occasion witnessed by family and friends. Friends teased Alena about taking him back. Her response was firm.
I'll wait for love to find me. Silas hurt me once, never again.
Alena's story is a reminder of strength, resilience, and self-worth. Sometimes life's greatest betrayals teach us the most powerful lessons. For young men like Silas, true strength lies in taking responsibility, not running away. Love and trust deserve courage, not abandonment. Was Silas a monster? Or was he just a man who didn't know what he wanted until it was too late? And what about Alena? Did she make the right choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.